Hi, everyone. Everyone that's watching, anyway. If you just give me a second here, I'm trying to set up the audio podcast. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm changing things up a little bit tonight. Um, I'm doing video on YouTube instead of just having a still photo up there. Um, the default photo from Spreaker. Uh, yeah, so you'll actually see me on YouTube. By the way, if you haven't noticed, today is Sunday. Um, I switched it up a little bit. Friday nights are a little rough for me because sometimes every other week I have to be up early on Saturday. Um, so I try to Friday nights I try to get things done. Um, so I decided to change doing the podcast to Sunday evenings instead. Uh, Not that it really matters because I don't go live. Um, I upload the videos and the podcast, the audios. So you'll get notification if you follow one of those platforms: iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, YouTube, Facebook. You'll get a notification. But so tonight we're going to talk about our environment. Did you know? Did you know? My dinner was not very, but a little salty tonight, so I'm a little thirsty. So don't mind that I'm having some tea. But all right. Did you know that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with? You have a little bit of each one of their characteristics of 5 people that you spend the most time with. You have parts of their traits, their personality, um, their mindset, their habits, um, everything about them. You are the average. Not that you're identical twins and not everything is the same, but you are the average of the 5 people, which means you have a little bit of each one of them. And it's for this reason. It is very, very, very important to find the right network of people. Try and surround yourself with positive people who not only believe in you, but they believe in your ambitions, your goals, and your visions for your future. These are the people that are going to be able to heal you when you need to be healed, support you when you need support. And the difference between them and the toxic people is major. It is a major difference. We must focus on the right network of people that we surround ourselves with. Everything that you can imagine is actually real. And it might sound cheesy, but Everything in the human world, everything that we see, human world, I mean, not nature, not, is the end result of something that started as someone's thought. Every invention started by a thought, an imagination. My friends, your imagination is the most powerful generator of reality. Strong imaginative visions can push and motivate us towards taking action. To translate those mental visions, those imaginations, into our real world. Again, if you listened to me before, you may have heard me mention acting as if. It's very important to understand what that means. We are limited by what we think we're capable of and what we think we're not capable of. But by acting as if and playing the part, we are forcing our mind and our environment, eventually our environment, to see us the way that we see ourselves. Our dreams and visions will never become reality if we don't act as if. We must act as if. As if you are already, let's say you're in college and you're earning a degree. You want to be a doctor. Okay, well, start acting like one. Let's say you're a lawyer. Start acting like one. Or you want to be a lawyer, I mean. Let's say you have a dream home that you imagine. Well, then start preparing for it. Because once you begin to take action, the mind, the unconscious mind is going to take over. And it's going to drive you to that ultimate reality that you've created in your imagination. So by taking steps and acting as if, you're training or retraining your mind to make those things real. And this sounds like some kind of fantasy, I know, but this is very real. This is how our unconscious mind works. And unless you have an understanding of how the unconscious mind works, your own unconscious mind, then you're limiting yourself. You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything that you want to do. If you can imagine it, then you can do it somehow, some way. All right, on to the next. Our words are very, very powerful. The words that we speak, and more importantly, the feelings that you feel while you're speaking them, have a powerful impact both on our surroundings and ourselves. You know, we hear this all the time, that words have power. And yet, and I'm guilty of it, I'm far from perfect in that area, We're all guilty of it, I think. We say things um, based on the way we're feeling in that very moment. And like I just said, the words that you speak, and more importantly, the feelings that you have while you're speaking them, have a very powerful impact on both our environment and ourselves. And this is because, well, really, your life is basically a story. A story that you convince your brain to be true. By repeating things over and over, repetition, as I always say, that repetition is brainwashing or rewiring or retraining, however you want to say it. But it all means the same thing pretty much. But we are convincing our brains that it is true. So this is where our language, our words, can hurt us or empower us. For this reason, affirmations can help release you from negativity, from fear, from worry and anxiety by changing habitual and thinking patterns. Are you bound to your hardwired beliefs? Or are you making constant changes or consistent changes? Especially for myself, especially for the past, 7 or 8 years since, my whole outlook on life has changed. And, since I began studying different topics, different things, different subjects. I studied the Bible for the first couple of years. And one thing I've learned, and I try to pass this on to people, is that even though there is a boundary that we shouldn't cross with this, but to a certain extent, it is a good idea to be your own worst critic. But not to a point that we drive ourselves into an area of, depression or anxiety or, lack self confidence and self-esteem. We don't want to go that far with it, but we need to constantly evaluate our behavior, our way of thinking, our patterns. And we have to be honest with ourselves. And we have to tell ourselves, this area of my life needs to change. Or this way of thinking, or these beliefs that I have are bounding me to this, they're limiting me to where I want to go, to where I want, what I want to, what I want to achieve. We have to be our own worst critic. We have to be honest with ourselves. But again, there has to be a boundary there. We can't constantly devalue ourselves to where we lose our self-esteem and confidence. But in order for correction to take place, we have to admit that a mistake was made. We have to be honest with ourselves. If we keep blaming everything else or blaming these conditions or that condition or it's because of this and it's because of that I'm stuck here where I'm at. If we keep blaming everything else, then we're never, ever going to progress. We're never going to take responsibility for the actions and for the mistakes that we've made, or the missing out on opportunities because of maybe we were afraid, maybe we had anxiety, and we didn't want to jump on an opportunity that we had. And now we have to, we lost that opportunity, or, whatever. We need to acknowledge those things and change our patterns, our thinking patterns, our way of being honest with ourselves. I say this phrase a lot. It is what it is, because really it is. It is what it is. But one phrase that I used to say a lot, but I don't really like that phrase anymore, that everything happens for a reason. I do believe that there's a grand plan, that God has a plan. I do believe that. But I also believe that we have free will, and that not everything happened because of God's plan. That most of the time things happen because they are the consequences of our decisions, of our choices. The Bible is clear. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible, but the Bible is clear on man having his own free will. And I believe that. I can do whatever I want right now, but there'll be consequences. And my actions, well, sometimes, depending upon my environment, the people that I have in my life or whatever else, sometimes my actions are going to affect that environment. So although this person who I have in my life didn't make the bad choice, I did, but that person's still going to feel the effects and the consequences of that bad choice that I made. So we have to understand that our decisions have consequences. Our choices have consequences. But anyway, back to our words having power. Me being a Christian and believing in the Bible and Almighty God, I'll reference the Bible. God spoke everything into existence. He spoke it into existence. Are we not made in the image of God? Which means if God's word has that kind of power, that he could speak things into existence, material things into existence, then to a certain extent, we have that same ability if we are made in the image of God. Maybe not quite, we can't speak galaxies and universes into existence, but we, in our little environment that's around us, we can. So on this, it's just a much lower scale, but we still can. All right. 5 ways to improve your neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. Many people consider that the skills and knowledge they currently have are a constant and are not due for change. However, regardless of how old you are, forming new brain connections, which is neurogenesis, and reorganizing older ones, which is neuroplasticity is indeed possible. To do so, you have to simply engage in new, previously unknown activities. All right, and I'm going to give you 5 examples. Number 1, random and intermittent fasting. During a fast, or, I'm sure most people that listen know what fasting is, when you don't eat. But during a fasting, okay, or a fast, your brain receives a chemical signal to produce more energy. And furthermore, it boosts the production of an important protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. In turn, fasting may highly boost neuroplasticity. And by doing that, it increases your ability to learn more and to learn new things. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, musical instruments. Playing music involves nearly all of your senses, as you have to coordinate intricate movements. You have to follow sounds and visual patterns and a rhythm. To do all of these, you have to create new connections in the brain, making this practice viable in the context of increasing neurogenesis. Number 3, travel. Besides allowing you to see different places and different cultures, traveling to a new, previously unseen environment makes the brain sprout dendrites, which are basically the receiving ends of the neurons that are in the brain. Number 4, mnemonic devices. Mnemonic devices are techniques and practices that a person can use to create associations to certain things. And in doing so, will remember and learn much easier and more effectively. Here's an example for a mnemonic, okay? A spelling mnemonic. If I spell FRIEND, okay, you think of friend. But what I really meant was Fred rushed in eating 9 donuts. So if you could take common words and associate them to different meanings, it's kind of like doing crosswords. I used to love doing crosswords. I still do, actually. Word find, crosswords, because it stimulates the brain. And number 5, use your non-dominant hand for each movement that you do. There is a formation of new neural pathways each time that you do. For this reason, using your non-dominant hand can be one of the ways to not only develop a better coordination, but also form new pathways in the brain, boosting neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. So I'm going to leave you with this. What do you do? How do you exercise your brain? Do you like doing crosswords like I do, or, word finds, or do you take on new challenges? Like, especially since COVID, there's all kinds of academies online that offer free courses. And I'm always enrolling in free courses. Why not? They're free and it's knowledge. I love learning. And some of them, I don't even know why I'm learning them. I'm learning about, I can't even tell you how many I'm enrolled in right now. Ayurvedic medicine, which is Hindu medicine or Asian, Indian medicine. I'm enrolled in basic electricity. I'm enrolled in a circuitry course. Now, I'll never need to know this, but for some reason, I have this interest in electricity. Maybe it's because I've been shocked 1,000 times in my life, but I'm definitely afraid of lightning, by the way, like really afraid of lightning. And because that's a whole lot of electricity. But seriously, I am afraid of lightning. But yet, I have this profound interest in electricity. I don't know why. So anyway, learn new things. Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself without it hurting you or without it hurting someone else. Don't just sit around. Don't just watch TV. Don't just listen to the radio. Do something. Use your brain. Keep it active. And just to recap, I want to. You are the average of the five people that you spend the most time with. That's important to know and understand. Because our environment, we are a product of our environment. If you've ever heard that phrase, it is one of the most truthful phrases out there. We are a product of our environment, no matter which way you look at it. And, so many people will say, that's if their friend has bad habits or is always getting into like trouble, getting arrested, whatever, finding themselves in bad situations. And, someone has another friend suggests to you, well, maybe you should distance yourself from that person. No. I'm not that dumb. I wouldn't get involved in that. Let me tell you something. You say that, and consciously, you probably wouldn't. But repetition, when you put yourself in a situation where there's activity or behavior that's repetitious, you start to pick up on that behavior unconsciously, and you start to do the same things unconsciously. Don't think that you have total control as much as you think you do, because the unconscious mind is a very, very funny thing, man. And it absorbs everything. Even things that we're not even paying attention to, that we don't even know are happening, but the unconscious mind does. So the people that we spend the most time with, we are absorbing their behavior, their habits, their actions, and over time, repetition, the unconscious mind is reprogrammed into doing the same thing. So we are a product of our environment. So choose your environment very carefully. The same, and it's not just bad things I'm talking about. Maybe I keep mentioning bad habits or whatever, but even if someone that we surround ourselves with is always negative and always have issues, always have girlfriend problems or boyfriend problems or family problems or this problem, that problem, this problem. If their life is filled with problems, first of all, that should say something about the person. If their life is constantly just filled with issues and problems, then, you need to like send them to like a counselor or a coach or something, help them get out of this, uh, whatever, this hole that they're in. But these things, this negativity and these negative words and the just the negative energy and the negative everything, we're absorbing that, especially if it's someone that we spend a lot of time with. And it starts to bring you down. You can't let that happen. You just can't. You've got to take control. Everything that you can imagine is real. If you can imagine it, you can do it. Now, some might say, well, no, that's not true. I imagine I can fly, but I can't fly. Sure you can. Sure you can. You might have to come up with some mechanical things and wings or something, but if you can imagine it, you can do it. It might take a long time to create a way to do it. But if you start on that path, I guarantee you'll come close to achieving it, because the unconscious mind takes control once we start a conscious choice to get on a path. For the first 3-6 months maybe, we have to consciously make choices that keep us on that path. But over 3 to 6 months, it starts to become habit. And we're on that path now, and we don't even have to think about it. Our mind has been rewired, reframed, and rebooted. And we begin to just live that path. Everything is about that now. So if I decided, hey, if I could imagine I could fly, okay, and if I consciously start doing things, taking action about trying to figure out a way that I could fly, in 6 months from now, it'll become a habit. It's like when you go into work in the morning. There's a pattern that you follow. There's a habit. You don't have to consciously think of it anymore. You just do it because you've been doing it for a while, that it's just a habit now. And our words have power. Always, always, always remember that. And it's a tough one. Like I said, I'm being honest, I have issues there myself. I'm not afraid to admit my faults. It's a tough obstacle, because I'm a very emotional person, I guess you could call me. So a lot of times, I allow the emotions to take control, and I try not to, but I reach a certain point, and it happens. But I'm human. It's not an excuse. It's a reality. I am a human being. And although I do try, I don't think any of us will ever reach perfection. In fact, I know none of us will ever reach perfection. But there's no harm in trying to reach perfection, because what that's doing is challenging us. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be challenging ourselves. So if you strive to be perfect, there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that you'll never be perfect. But there's nothing wrong with trying to be. It will help you change behaviors. It'll help you change your way of thinking, your thought processes and patterns, behavior patterns. All these things are possible because you're challenging yourself. You're trying to be perfect. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't let anybody ever tell you that there's something wrong with that. I mean, don't walk around with your nose stuck way up in the air thinking that you're perfect, because you're not. But there's nothing wrong with trying to be. Remain humble, but try to always do better. And that's it. That's all I got for you. It's been about 35 minutes. I think we're good. So keep in mind, these podcasts and these videos on YouTube will be uploaded on Sunday evenings now instead of Friday. And join me again next week. And like I told you last Friday, I do want to start doing some short videos, maybe during the week. Just jump on, because I like to do that when I'm studying something and I come across new information that wow, really? I like to share that, so don't be surprised to see me jump on and just be like, hey, guess what I just learned? But, all right, that's it. That's all I got. So, I'll be back here next Sunday evening. Have a great night. Have a fantastic week. And remember to challenge yourself. Have a good night, folks. We'll talk soon.